Hello, welcome to episode number 1 of season 1 of The Savage Perspective. I'm Mike Savage.
And I'm Cynthia Savage.
And we are your hosts. And over the next few episodes, we're going to talk to people that are interesting to us.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. I don't want to, no interviews with what we consider to be boring people. None. So we're going to be doing that over the next few episodes, and I think you'll enjoy it. We've got some excellent people lined up. We'll be talking with some folks who are survivors of Hurricane Michael that are friends and former students of mine. We'll be talking with an old high school friend of mine by the name of Dr. Alex Thermos, and he's a doctor of osteopathy now. So we'll be talking about that and his path to faith and so forth. But I wanted to start the first episode dealing with what it's like to be an author. I thought that would be interesting, particularly since I wrote a book not too long ago. But more than trying to plug a book or do anything like that, I've had a lot of questions from people who have said, that they all have a story. They would love to write a book, and what's the process of doing it, and how do you do it? And they're expecting, I guess, since I went through it one time, that I'm some sort of expert.
Well, you are for me.
Yeah, right. Well,
since I haven't written any.
Right. And so I thought that rather than giving them my experiences, which at the beginning were just frustration, because I thought that once I'd written a book and had all the words done, I would simply hit publish and off it would go and become a bestseller. Sadly, that proved not to be the case. And it took several months just to get it into a properly edited format, getting the manuscript edited, getting a front cover, a back cover, organizing the inside, and then a plan on where it was going to be available and how it was going to be available. And it was just a mind-numbing, tedious time for me. And then I came across Claire Perkins. And Claire Perkins is the president, owner, chief bottle washer and cook and everything else, I think, for Book Talk Radio Club. And Claire, welcome. Nice to have you with us.
Oh, thank you, Mike and Cynthia. I think I'm more chief bottle washer than president, but there you go.
Somebody's got to do the wash.
That's right.
Well, that's it. That's exactly.
Exactly. Now, Claire has been in this business for a long time, both in the sense of marketing books and getting books put together and having things run smoothly. She handles all of my social media now when it comes to promoting the book.
Thank goodness.
Yes, thank goodness indeed. And I remember, Claire, at the very beginning, you said you have an interesting Facebook page, but what's missing is you're not plugging your book at all. So, yeah, this lady's a genius already. But before we get into that, let's talk about how you began the business of Book Talk Radio Club and what brought that about.
Sure. I had already written a couple of books, both in the self-help and inspirational genres. And having been in marketing for, over 25 years now, I'm used to blowing my own trumpet and blowing a trumpet for everyone else. So I thought, I know the way to get my book heard by a lot of people is to see if I can get on radio. So I emailed my local radio station. Yeah, absolutely, come along. So I went along, talked about my book, and they asked me back a second time, which was lovely. Then I thought, I know, I'm going to see if I can get on a national radio station. Never one to just sit there. So I called them. I emailed them, found out the name of the person. And yeah, absolutely, we'd love to see you. So you've got to come up into London. So I'm in the UK. All right, fine. So I live about an hour and a half outside of London, and it means catching a train. So that's no problem. Well, they cancelled on me 3 times before I even started the journey. And then one day when we actually agreed on a time, I was on the train commuting up there, and I got a call about half an hour out of the arriving at the station. I'm sorry, we're going to have to cancel you, Claire. We've got someone more important coming in. Oh, gee, thanks.
Ooh.
Not nice.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right.
So I thought, well, I was very angry, and you can imagine it was like the air was blue for a little while on the station platform. So then I thought, you know what? If they're going to treat one independent author, self-published author like this, I bet they're going to treat others like that. So I thought, you know what? If they can do it, I'm going to do this myself. I'm going to start interviewing authors and marketing their books. And my first interview was, I think it was the end of March 2017, last year. And it's been great fun, and I absolutely love doing it. So thank you to the national radio station, who I won't name, but thank you, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have a thriving business.
Right. And I think that there's this confusion about writing books. I had no idea of an independent author. I thought that someone would pick the book up and an agent would read it and say, oh, that's terrific. We're going to get it into a publishing company. And suddenly it's a major motion picture. But
that'd be nice.
yeah, nothing. My expectations were quite low. But the thing that struck me as I moved through the process was this whole thing of being an independent author rather than having a publishing company and an agent. You certainly, I guess, make more money in the long term if the book sells. But it's one of those things where you take on absolutely everything regarding the book that a publisher would do. Could you describe some of the things that independent authors have to do to get their books published?
Sure. I mean, it was a huge, steep learning curve for me. I'd never published my own book before. And I had this book sitting inside me, waiting to come out. And I kept thinking, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? I can't do it. What, people are going to say, who's Claire? What does she know about this kind of thing? My first one was called Life Purpose, How to Find Your Reason for Living. And I kept having these doubts. Why would anyone want to listen to my book or read my book? And then I thought one day I was listening to Dr. Wayne Dyer tape, and he said, don't die with your music still in you. And that really hit me. And I thought, right, I'm going to look into this. There must be some way of doing this. So then I found out about self-publishing, a lot of research. Then I had to learn how to write my book properly. I mean, I had the notes down. I had to learn how to publish it or format it properly for Kindle. Then I had to learn how to format it properly for paperback. Then once I'd done that, I had to learn how to price it for different currencies, for all the different Amazon platforms. Then I had to understand that there are certain programs on Amazon that if you join them, you can't sell your book elsewhere. So I thought, no, I want control over my book. I've spent long enough trying to get this sorted out and get it out there. So I want total control. So I published it on Drafted Digital. All different places, but it's been a huge, steep learning curve, and it's not easy. I mean, I seem to have an affinity with technology. I seem to know how to do things. I have no idea why, because I've never been trained. But I feel terribly sorry for the authors out there, or would-be authors, that have no idea how to format or use the computer properly. It's probably hell. And then, of course, there's a marketing side, because once you've published your book, if no one knows about it, it can sit there and languish on the shelf, as it were, the virtual shelf, gathering dust.
It sounds as though you had to have an awful lot of self-motivation. Where did that come from? It sounds rather formidable to hear it all spelled out afterwards from both of you. How do you get the self-motivation to keep moving on it? Because it sounds as though, well, for the lack of the music dying within you, you can't get it out in the first place.
Well, you know what, Cynthia? If I decide to do something, I become very, very focused and very single-minded about it, and I won't let it beat me. So, as I said, it took me years to decide to actually do anything with the idea of a book. And once I got it written down, I thought, right, I'm going to do it. I don't care what people think. To hell with them.
I've got to interject and ask. So, does that speak to a stubborn streak in your personality?
I don't know. No one's ever called me stubborn.
Right. Well, she was looking at me, Claire, when you said that. We're kind of describing me. I get laser focused on doing whatever I'm doing and tend to ignore everything and everyone else around me. Does that sound?
Oh, well, then, yeah. But I didn't know that was stubborn.
Well, nowadays, it's more politically correct to say that it's motivate, focused.
Focused, yeah.
Yes. Very, very focused.
Yes, we're not old, we're mature.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's again looking at me. The idea of getting into business and doing this. Okay, so now you become familiar. You're able to do the things and so forth. What was it like trying to get your first client, to get somebody to believe in you, that you knew what you were talking about?
Because I've got the 25 years plus marketing and promoting behind me, I know the kind of words and the phrases that will attract people to a particular brand or, or product or a book. So it wasn't that difficult because I've got belief in myself. And if I believe I can do something, I do it. And therefore other people believe it in it as well.
And and that's been my experience with you as well. You really know exactly what you're doing. I know when we were starting the podcast, I was thinking, I'd really like to have a cover for the podcast that reflected the book, the thinker type thing, right?
Sure.
And I thought, this is just a brilliant idea. So I'm going to tell Claire, this is what I want. And you said, Mike, that's not exactly right. You want them to know it's a podcast. So we need you sitting in front of a microphone speaking. So this equals podcast. And it was kind of a knock upside of the head, like, Mike, you have no idea what you're talking about. And I'm comfortable with saying that. I wasn't at the beginning when I first started writing, because when the editor got hold of the book, it was, I don't know, over 100,000 words. And started hacking and slashing and sending it back, because I'd send it out to people that I knew, and they would send it back saying, "Oh, it's brilliant, absolutely perfect. I wouldn't change a thing." And so then the first person who the editor, when she got hold of it and looked at it, she hacked about 25,000 words out of it and sent it back to me. And I read it and I said, "Yeah, I need this," because it was people that know you aren't going to say, it's too long or it's too preachy or something like that. Having a pro do that is to me just any advice that I ever give anybody is get a pro editor, someone who knows what they're doing.
Very much so. And the amount of people that I've interviewed over the last 18, 19 months, and the amount of people that I've done social media marketing for, the ones that have had a professional editor go through their work, it's black and white. It's such a huge difference, and nothing annoys me more than seeing things spelt incorrectly and grammatically incorrect. And it's like someone poking a stick at me. It really annoys me. But I'm not an editor. I'm the marketing person, so I can't say anything. But it's very important to have a professional editor, without a doubt.
Let's back up for just a second, and I want to talk about your writings in a few minutes. But I want to talk about the idea of a person saying, "Look, I have a book inside of me. There's a story I want to tell." For me, it was the memoir, and the question that I had at the beginning is, okay, where do you stop? Where's the stopping point? And it really didn't come together for me until I outlined my entire book, and my outline was 60 pages of outlining. But what would you suggest because not everybody likes to outline like I do, but what would you suggest for someone who really thinks they have a book? Where do they start? What's the number one thing to do?
Start writing it. Never mind about the outlining, never mind about the spelling to begin with, never mind about anything, just write from your heart, write from your soul, just write what you want to write. Don't write what you think other people want to hear or what they want to read. You'll find an audience, just write.
Sit down and just start writing.
Yeah, just let it flow, because when you start worrying about things, that's when the dreaded writer's block comes in. Excuse me.
Yeah.
It's the point. You just let it flow. Let it flow. Don't worry about how it looks or what it sounds like. Just get the ideas out of your head onto paper or onto the keyboard or onto the computer, as the case may be, and just carry on. And then you'll stop when you're ready to stop.
Wow. I know that when I was writing my dissertation for my PhD, that's what the advice that I was given at the very beginning is just write. Just sit down and start writing. You don't have to start at the beginning. You can start at the middle. You can start at the end and work your way back. Yeah. They said just start writing a particular section. And so I didn't think that would carry over into creative writing or memoir writing or that sort of thing. But it's interesting that you say that. Is that how you wrote your books?
Yeah, absolutely. And the first book, I spent years, as I said, wanting to do it. And then when I actually said, right, that's it, I'm doing it, it took me 6 weeks.
To write it?
To write it. It's a little book, to write and publish it, sorry, I should say. It's a little book, but it's had a lot of impacts with people.
And what was the name again? You said it really quickly. I didn't hear it.
Sorry, Life Purpose, How to Find Your Reason for Living. It actually just spilled out of me, but probably because it was sitting there for so long, it was like a kettle boiling, and all of a sudden it went whoosh, and the steam came out, and I wrote and typed and typed and typed.
Ron, you sent me a copy of that, and I read it, and you can tell that it just came right from your heart. I mean, it was one of those that just obviously it was life experience that had taught you that, but it just didn't. All right. So younger people writing. One of the things that's amazed me getting involved in independent publishing is how many young people are writing now. The genres, I'll be honest with you, kind of surprised me also. Not just the younger people, just some of the genres of writing out there. I didn't realize there were that many romance novels and werewolf and vampire novels and series and all that out there. I had no idea because it's not what I generally read. But for younger people writing today, and there's a lot of young people that I know that I think would do well writing a book. Your advice to them is to sit down and start writing. All right. So let's say they get to the end of that. Then what do you do?
Then if they're going to use it as to publish, then they've got to sit there and then start going through it again. But you know what? When you read a book, whether it's your book or someone else's book, you skip words and you don't see. So if you're actually writing a book, once you've done it, once you've written everything down, go word by word, chapter by chapter, but read it out loud. And then you'll see the mistakes, whether they're grammatical mistakes, punctuation, spelling, whatever. Then you see them, you pick up on them.
I did that, but then I also did the thing with having the computer read it back to me.
Did you?
Yeah, and I found for me that was very helpful because it would say some things. I go, "What are you talking about? I didn't write that." It had to be a computer error, But sure enough, there was just this dumb thing in the middle of a sentence that I, edited and cut back and forth and forgotten to come back and fix. But
that's a clever idea. Very clever idea.
It worked because I was. Now, what about audiobooks? There seems to be, from what I'm hearing, and is that people prefer to listen to books now. Has that been your experience?
I've been listening to audiobooks since the first iPod came out.
Wow.
I love audiobooks. I've always loved reading. My mum used to take me to the local library when I was about 7 or 8, I guess. And every month we used to go to the library and I'd pick out books. And I've always loved reading. I have a love of reading, so thanks to my mum. But I love audiobooks because I can do other things. I can be doing work. I can be designing. Actually, I love listening to the books when I'm designing the graphics for clients because it's just so relaxing. And it's like listening to someone reading to you. It's wonderful. I can't remember the last time I actually picked up a paperback or a hardback book.
How do you focus, though?
I don't know. I just do.
And which do you focus on, the book, or does it just become second nature, like listening to music?
Both. I focus on both. So my brain listens to one side. His brain listens to one thing. The other side looks what I'm doing and does the work. I have no idea how.
And I understand, and I think, Cynthia, we can probably better understand it. Remember when Jesse would do his homework and have the TV going, and he would do fine. But I guess it's a lifestyle. I mean, for me, I have difficulty doing that. When I'm writing, I want silence. I don't want anybody talking to me. I don't want the clocks chiming. I want to be totally focused. But now that I've learned about audiobooks, authors, do you suggest the authors record their own audiobooks?
Depends on the book. I think with fiction, it's better to get a good narrator. I'll come back to that in a second. But when it's a memoir like yours, Mike, and when there's self-help and inspirational books like mine, it's great to be able to do it yourself if you can, because you put yours is your story of your life. Mine is helping people. So therefore, it's coming from our voices. When it comes to fiction, I've listened to, over the years, to some fantastic books. And you know why they're fantastic? Because the narrator or the actor, they get actors to do it now, is absolutely fantastic. They do goodness knows how many voices. And you can hear when they really enjoy it. I mean, when you think of Jim Dale doing all the J.K. Rowling Harry Potter books, he had to do, I think it was about 170 different voices. But it's like listening to a play, watching a film in your head. It's wonderful. But also I've listened to books that could have been so fantastic, but they had such rotten narrators. So if you can't afford to get a decent narrator, wait, because otherwise your book will fall and die on it. It will be such a shame.
I've begun recording my book, and what I've discovered is I'm my own worst critic when it comes to
Aren't we all?
the phrasing, how I want it to sound. what I'm trying to convey, that sort of thing. And it's difficult for me to do at times. I mean, I've learned all the lessons of, okay, do it the same time each day, do it for the same amount of time each day, so it sounds the same. So you don't have a different voice in the morning as you do in the afternoon. So that I have learned that.
I think you're thinking too hard about it, Mike. Just read it like you're talking to someone.
Oh, don't say that. Don't tell me about overthinking. Between you, Cynthia, and the chair for my dissertation, as I hear that more than anything else, just get it done. Don't overthink it. All right. So we're good with that. Let's talk about some of your other books. How many books have you written so far?
Okay, got 2 self-help and one two books. One self-help, one inspirational, plus the marketing book I wrote probably about 3 or 4 months ago, maybe a bit longer.
I can't imagine. I'm waiting to finish the dissertation. I'm going to start up the second book that I want to write. I've got 2 more that I'm pretty sure that I want to write. But my excuse is I'm in the middle of a dissertation, so I'll be without excuse in a few months on that. No, I'll be able to address that perhaps a little more full time.
Well, we certainly hope it's only a few months.
From my mouth to God's ear, please, yes. Lord, let that happen. All right. Here's the other thing. When I got into to this whole publishing thing, there's a lot of scams out there. And I just want to speak about a couple of them that I ran into. The first time I reached out to a self-help publishing company, I was contacted by email, and then they began to hound me by telephone, wanting me to spend around $12,000.
How much?
$12,000. Right, and that was to just get it to where it would go to Amazon.
Oh my goodness, what a ripoff!
Right, but I'm believing them. I'm thinking, okay, they're on the internet, so it's got to be true. But I mean, the just looking at all the stuff, very professionally presented and all that sort of thing. And so it was like 12,000. But when I get the hair on the back of my neck begins to stand up, and I know that somebody's not telling me the truth.
Absolutely.
I began to challenge them on things, and finally just told them, don't call me back. And they still called me back after that. But I used some colorful language, and I haven't heard from them since.
I can't imagine you doing that for one moment.
It was terrible. The next one was one that was kind of wasn't as pushy, but wasn't quite as efficient as I wanted it to be. They said, send us a sample of your writing, and they sent back a sample of what the proofreading, and there were still problems with it. Even I found the proofreading issues after they. And so, how do you find someone that you can trust to edit your book? And again, for people who are listening to this, who think are writing a book, one, Claire's right. Sit down and just start writing. If you want to know how to outline, you can contact me, and I'll talk to you about how I outline my book, which I just find helpful. But I mean, if you need help, that's what. Now, when it's done, and you need the proofreader, someone to do the actual, not just proofreading, but the editing of the book, that's going to be ruthless about, no, this, you don't need to put this in here. How do you find someone like that?
Ask me, because I have a brilliant lady who does a lot of editing for some of my clients.
Right. And how do you spot a good proofreader? Yeah, I'm sorry, not a proofreader, but editor, a good editor.
I think from experience, you've just got to ask people. You've got to ask around, see the other work they've done, ask for reviews. That's so important. Anything you're going to ask someone else to do for you, whether it's marketing or editing or book design, ask to see their reviews. Ask to see, if they haven't got them on their website, be wary first of all, because why wouldn't anyone put reviews on their website? It's something to be proud of. I've got umpteen reviews on my website. I love it. Thank you, everyone, for giving me great reviews. Right. Make sure the person that you're going to hire has got good reviews. And if they don't have them on their website and they say, I can put you in touch with someone, be a little wary, because you never know that someone might be their best friend doing it with them. But, make sure they've got good reviews from other authors that helped.
I put on Facebook, does anybody know anything about independent publishing, right? And I just did. I threw it out there, and a former student contacted me, who put me in touch with a person who was an independent author. And then this train of people began. I was able to follow this train and trail of people to find an editor that I could work with. And it worked out really well. I mean, if I was to write a book again and have it edited, I would probably go back to her, just because she did, when people are dealing with creative authors, it may be different than people who do memoirs and books like I intend to write, but I prefer they be direct and ruthless about their comments. And I don't mean rude, but I mean, just saying, hey, no, like you did with the podcast thing was perfect for me. Oh yeah, that makes perfect sense to have a picture of a guy doing a podcast, so they know it's a podcast. But when it came to editing, I really preferred that direct approach. Have you seen authors get offended by good editors?
Yes, but then their ego gets in the way. So why are they giving it to an editor in the first place?
Yeah, and that's. Go ahead.
I want to say something, if I may, about going back to finding a publisher. You were mentioning that before, and you were saying that these people wanted to charge you $12,000. Well, that's called vanity publishing, and this is something that really annoys the hell out of me, especially now that authors can independent authors can self-publish on Amazon for absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Yeah, of course, if you want someone to format your book, then you're going to hire someone to do that for you. But there is no reason why these vanity presses should be charging any money, because they don't do any marketing. If they do, it's very, very little with no real enthusiasm. They're just there to take the money. So please be careful, people.
I second that. I mean, Cynthia and I talked about those folks as well.
Yeah. One of the things I remember you talking about, Mike, was that there's, once you got your Facebook page up and going, that there were people that started contacting you about buying likes on your page.
Oh, God.
Pay money, and all of a sudden, 291, 300, 400, 500 likes would show up from like anywhere and everywhere. And it's supposed, I think you said the reason behind it was that the more likes you have, the higher the profile.
No.
Claire followed me through this because Claire has control of my Facebook pages. And so when this lady was contacting me through Facebook and say you can have 5,000 likes for, what was it, Claire, like $90 or something like that? And I questioned her. I said, is this
valid?
Is this honorable thing to do, to just kind of fake, having this many likes? And Claire, you can talk more about that, but I mean, I was kind of leading her on because I wanted to find out, what kind of scam is this that's going on with getting likes on Facebook for author pages?
Yeah, the problem is that when social media started up, and probably about 2 years or 3 years or even 4 years into it, people were buying likes, and there were companies selling likes and follows. And we can get 100,000 people to follow you, but these companies get wise to it. Twitter got wise to it, Facebook got wise to it. If they see you suddenly got 390,000 likes or 390 likes or 400 likes, all of a sudden they're going to look into it and they're going to find out. I mean, it's not difficult to do for these companies now, for these social media platforms. They're going to say, this person's got there's spam going on. They're going to say, bye-bye. That's it. You've got to be so careful.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that I kind of want to stress here. Is that there are scams on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, that plays to the vanity of, and you talk about vanity presses, the vanity of the author. Absolutely. The idea of getting to 5,000 likes and becoming a public figure or that sort of thing. And then suddenly a publisher is going to look at that and go, oh, he's got 5,000 likes. Well, we need to sign him right away. That's pretty much nonsense. But it's one of those things that people will play to your vanity, trying to get you.
It's total nonsense, and I'll tell you why. Because even if you've got goodness knows how many likes on your page, first of all, that doesn't mean to say everyone's going to buy your book. The second of all, it doesn't mean to say that a publisher is going to suddenly contact you and say, oh, we love your book, we're going to give you a huge advance, blah, blah, blah. I think those days are gone, unless, of course, you're a well-known published author like J.K. Rowling, etc., etc. But what is this amazing dream that authors, self-published authors, think they're going to find, or a publisher's going to find them and say, we think your book's wonderful, we're going to publish you. But the days have gone where the advanced, these big advances are given, they're gone. All that's going to happen is your book's going to be put into paperback, your book is going to go onto Kindle, which you could do yourself. and you're going to get a little bit of marketing. It's not a big deal to say I've got a publisher anymore. I'm so for the indie author because I know how hard it is. I know the dreams that gets crushed and the scams that happen, and I see it so often. It really upsets me. I feel that's why I support my members of my group on Facebook.
That's what I want to talk about also is now we've talked about some of the horror stories of independent authors and the things that we go through. But there is a group of people out there, other independent authors, that we get behind each other and support each other.
Yes.
And your group in particular, I've been particularly active with, but I mean, there's real support out there. It's not just kind of leaving you hanging or something like that. If you have questions, if you have, how do I do this? You can post it on these pages with other independent authors, and they'll walk you through some of the things that they've been through.
Well, how do you get those names? Or how do you get on those lists?
But they're not lists as such, Cynthia. They're groups. On Facebook, there's groups for absolutely everything. There's groups for have I done my washing today, or there's Facebook groups about different books, and it goes into the different genre of books. And mostly the independent authors are there, and because they've experienced things and they're an independent author, they want to be able to help you. So all you do is you put the question, you'll get the answer. That's why every Friday on my group I have a Just Ask Me question and answer session, because people want to know things. People need to know things, and I'm happy to share my knowledge, my experience, and most people are.
Okay, so how would I find you if I decided I was going to write a book and I want to contact Claire Perkins? Well,
the group's name is Authors Promoting Their Books. If you want to find me, you'd look for Book Talk Radio Club on Facebook. And if you wanted to go to my Book Talk Radio Club website, it's booktalkradio.info.
All right. And that's how I found you. But I mean, the thing that I really want to stress here is there's a support group out there. When I first started, I was on my own. I had no idea what was going on. All I knew is, I'd been given time to write this book and I was writing it. And the problems that I ran into was I got intimidated by the process. And that's why I almost sold out to these vanity authors, was I got intimidated by the process. I mean, I don't know how to format a book. I hadn't given a thought to the book cover, the how big it was going to be, paperback, whether it was going to be hardback, whether it was just going to be on Kindle. I had all these decisions to make with absolutely no knowledge, no information. And I struggled the first couple of months thinking, I don't even know where to go with this thing. And then finally, I just put on Facebook, said, how do I find out about this? And like I say, the trail led me through to find a good editor, to find a person that designed the front and the interior of the book, and ultimately to you to handle the marketing aspect, because I had no clue as to what I'm in. But as I've gone through this, if I'm, when I write the next book, I know who to go to right off the bat. And I'm also determined to help others not fall prey to these people out there who just, they'll take your money and nothing happens, nothing whatsoever.
Exactly.
I mean, you changed up my website also right away. And I liked that. I mean, I liked the way that you did it and that sort of thing. Let's talk about your business for a second and what your specialty is and what you do that, because I wanted to lay a foundation of, look, you need to get recommendations of people if you're going to write a book on how to publish and market and that sort of thing. You need to get those recommendations. But let's talk about what you do exactly.
Okay, well, there's two sides. I have Book Talk Radio Club and I have BTRC Author Services. Book Talk Radio Club is something for authors and readers. So on the on the reader's side, it's a place for them to listen to interviews with upcoming writers and listen to the authors talking about their books and inspiration for writing them. And it's a place for readers to discover new and exciting books in all different genres and get to know the authors behind them. Now, on the author's side, what I offer is a chance to get the independent author's voice heard, because I didn't get my voice heard, as I said at the very beginning of this podcast. I got turned down and cancelled 4 times. And I thought this would be a good way to give indie authors the voice they deserve. So what I do is I offer live on-air interviews, but they're not just interviews, because then those interviews are then marketed and promoted to over 100,000 readers worldwide through social media, through Facebook pages, through Facebook groups, through Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, also on Goodreads. Then they're also syndicated through iTunes and Spotify and Amazon Alexa. So if you've got an Amazon Alexa device, you can listen to Book Talk Radio Club author interviews. So it's giving huge exposure for the authors through live on-air interviews.
I want to say something also. I hate to interrupt, but the things that cost the most are what I thought was going to be promotion was going to cost me a lot more than having my book edited. It has not. When I saw your prices and I did the research into it and all the things to see what was going on, you don't charge thousands of dollars for what you just described, because the idea of getting on that many platforms, doing that many things, having that kind of exposure sounds like it would cost thousands of dollars. It doesn't.
No, I don't want to charge thousands of dollars for this, because most indie authors still have a day job, which means they still have to pay a mortgage or rent, and we will have bills to pay, utilities, etc. I know I also have to pay them. Therefore, I wanted to make the prices and the memberships accessible. So I started 3 months for $75, and for that they get 3 months worth of membership, worth of marketing and promotion to all the places I've just said, and they get 1 interview. And then it goes up to 6 months for $150 for 2 interviews, then 12 months for 3 interviews for $300. But I've also got a special offer on. Should I talk about that for a moment?
Oh, yes, please.
Okay. You can buy the 12-month price, 12-month membership for the price of 6 months. So instead of being $300 for 12 months, it's $150 for 12 months. So I want people to succeed. That's why I price sensibly and reasonably.
All right. And I have to admit, the being on your show has helped sales. The things that you've done for me has helped sales, and it works. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on. People who know me know that I'm not going to back anybody that I think is a charlatan or a scam or anything like that. I've looked through and make sure that the things are working, and it's worked for me. And that's what I want to say is it's worked for me. So when people are hearing this, Claire's not, paying me to do this. I ask her to, and she's taking time, it's 6 hours difference between here and where Claire lives in England. So she's taking time to do this. It's free advice to people. And it's also what I wanted to be was encouraging, that the idea of writing a book, for most people, as you mentioned, most authors have a second or a third job. The point is that this is more than a hobby. It's a passion. And if you write and it's a passion, then don't be disappointed when book sales aren't 100,000 in the first 3 months. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. The best advice, right? The best advice that you gave me as far as book sales were concerned, because people ask me all the time, "Hey, how's the book going?" Well, why don't you buy it and find out? No, I'm sorry, but but generally they say, how are sales? How are things going? And my answer is, I don't know. I said, because it's my first time through, I don't know whether I'm in a good place or a bad place. And what you explained to me was it's a growing process. It takes time. Unless you're some famous person that's suddenly dropping a book, and publishers are all over the place on TV or whatever. It takes time to build an audience, to let people grow to trust you and want to read your book and do that sort of thing.
Exactly.
And that was the best advice I think you gave to me so far.
Thank you. With the other side of the business, the BTRC author services, that's where I'm doing your social media marketing on your behalf. And I think a lot of authors, new authors, think, as you said, they're suddenly going to put their book out there and whoopee, they're going to get sales left, right, and centre. Well, that's fabulous. I would love for that to happen. One thing I will never do is promise sales. I mean, run like the wind if someone promises you sales, because how can they? What is the most important thing is to be patient, get on with good marketing, and if you don't know how to market, hire someone to do it properly for you. And as I said before, make sure they've got reviews. Right. But be patient. Be patient. It's not going to happen immediately. It's so important to have a good author page on Facebook to make sure your author brand has continuity. So make sure your author brand, the picture is the same on all your social media platforms. Make sure you put your sales links. Make sure you make everything easy for people to buy your book. I mean, there's the amount of times on my Facebook group, people post a picture of their book, beautiful cover image, and with no link. So, and people do not have the time these days to start searching, and they can't be bothered. Why should they be bothered? They've got other things to think about. Make it easy for them. Make everything easy for someone to buy your book. Right. And that's what I do in the social media program. I do it for my authors.
And that's what you do well, is you make it easy. Otherwise, it's just totally frustrating and difficult. And
Sure.
so, yeah, that's where your experience and your expertise come in. You do make it easy.
Oh, thank you.
Do most one more final question? Do most authors have how shall I put it, overinflated egos or impression of themselves?
No, not the ones I've dealt with.
There's
been one or two on my group that I've booted and blocked, but otherwise no.
Yeah, it's a humbling experience to write a book. I thought, 15 years in prison, I'd pretty much been humbled to the idea of authority and that sort of thing.
You haven't been finished humbling yet, obviously.
Well, I guess not. This whole building this platform and helping, the thing that's helped a great deal is running into good people.
Right.
And you've just been a real comfort and done just a great job. You'll be in charge of the podcast and getting everything loaded there and fixed. And I trust you. And it's one of those things where you've really, just in the few months that we've known each other, you've really shown me that there's people out there that care, more so than the people who are scammers out there and are just looking for your money. And so it's been encouraging to get to work with you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, that's going to pretty much do it for episode 1, season 1, so far of A Savage Perspective, except Cynthia held her finger up and says,
Claire, is there anything else you'd like to say that you haven't been able to say or haven't gotten out yet?
Yeah, you want to talk about Brexit?
No. Do you want to talk about Trump?
Anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, what
Claire?
was the deal with the balloon, Claire? Why did you put that balloon up with Trump up there?
I'm not going there. I'm not getting into this at all.
Right. Yeah, I said,
Smart
I
lady.
never commented on politics anyways, but we probably should let you answer the question. Did I miss anything? Anything else you'd like to talk about?
No, the only thing I want to say is that people can find me at www.booktalkradio.info. That's it, and thank you.
Right, and I have that here, and I'll when this podcast goes up, we'll have that link also on the podcast side on the website for people to reach out to you and talk with you. Claire, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you both too. I appreciate it.
All right, well, that wraps it up. In our next episode, we're going to meet one of my high school friends that I grew up with, Dr. Alex Thermes. And it's going to be a very exciting experience, I'm sure, for Cynthia. She'll get to quiz him about all my foibles, what led me into my life of crime.
Yes, time before me.
BC, before Cynthia.
Before
Exactly.
Cynthia.
Right. So that's it for now. Okay, bye.